In this video, I'm going to show you a quick way to make some good looking stairs. So we have a basic model here, and I've created a second floor landing that's exactly 10 feet from the first floor. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start with a theoretical 7-11 rise and run. So I'm just pulling up one tread, and I'm actually going to pull it up 7 inches, and then I'll put a guideline on it and go back 11 inches. So we're starting with kind of a best case 7-11 here, and I'll also make it 36 inches wide. Okay, so this block is representing one rise of our stairs. So I'm going to triple click on that, and I'm going to make that a component because we may have to resize everything. Okay, so our goal is to get from this point up to the top of the 10-foot landing. So one way of doing this is to use the move tool and tap Control or Command on the Mac and simply move 1 to this opposite corner here. So you got to get this right on one single move. So I'm going to click. Now I can use my multiply array command. So I'm going to type in times, I don't know, type in times 10. That's not enough. So type in times 16. That looks pretty darn close. So I'm going to get the tape measure tool by pressing T, and I'm going to start at the top of this last riser block and come down to the top of the floor, and I can see I've got 9'11". So I need to get an extra inch out of all these guys. So at this point I think I'll do a little calculation. So I've got 10 feet, so that's 120 inches, and I've just done a bunch of these blocks. Instead of counting them, I'm just going to go up to Entity Info, and with my Select tool, I'm going to click on one of them, and Entity Info is now showing that there are 17 in the model. So I have 17 rises. So I'm going to divide my 120 by 17, and press equals. And so I get 7.058, blah, blah, blah. So let's see what a 16th is. So I'm going to type in 1 divided by 16 and hit equals, and I get 0.0625. So that's pretty close. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to change all of these. So I'll double click on one, and I'm going to push this up or pull this up by 1/16. So I'm typing in 1/16 and pressing enter. But now you'll see, if you zoom in really closely, that the other treads, or the other riser blocks, whatever you want to call them, did not move up. They all sized, but they did not move up. So the top landing here is still at whatever it was, which is well, it went up by a 16th because that riser block went up, but that's all. So what I want to do is delete almost all of these, delete every one except for the bottom. So I'm going to use my Select tool, and I'm going to lasso from left to right. I'm going to make sure I get everything in there except for that first one. And you can see, because I didn't surround anything else in its entirety, except for these riser blocks, I don't have anything else selected. Let me show that to you again. So I specifically want to go from left to right, which means anything that I select, I have to totally enclose with this selection box. And I'm not totally enclosing that first riser block, and I'm not totally enclosing anything else. So I'm very easily getting all of these blocks instead of shift clicking on all of them. So now that I have them all selected except for the first one, I'll press delete. And now let's do the same thing. We'll get the move tool, and we'll move one of them right there. And now I should have remembered how many. I'm going to do times 16, and that worked. Okay. So now we want this top to be at 10 feet, or at least very close to it. So if we drop a tape straight down along the blue axis, and I'm holding shift and just referencing this top, I'm at 10 foot and a 16th. So that's pretty darn close. We can either cheat the bottom step or the top step. So I think we kind of have our good calculation here. And actually this top step is the landing itself. So I'm going to delete that one. And then I'm going to use that same technique to select them all without selecting anything else. And I'll right click and I'll make that a group just to make it a little easier to move. And now we want to move it straight along this green axis. So I'll hold down the shift key and then I'll reference this landing. And now we're in place. So now the fact that these are components, we can actually modify these to get a good looking tread and not change their position. So I'm going to actually explode this group. So I'm going to right click on it and explode it. And now what I'll do is just click on any of these blocks and move it up. So I'm going to make these exactly 1 inch. So I'll draw a 1 inch guideline from the top. And I'll push this up so that I hit that guideline. So now we have our treads. And close that component. Now let's say we want to put some nice hardwood, use some nice hardwood treads. So I'm going to go down to wood. Now, say I want these to be cherry. I can individually click on each one of these, but to save a little bit of time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to triple click or double click on one of them. Once it's open, I'm going to triple click. So basically, I've opened the component, I've selected all of the edges, all of the faces, everything, by triple clicking on it. Then I'll go to my cherry and fill, and now all of them became filled. So that's a nice little trick. I'm going to hit G, which is my shortcut key to erase my guidelines. Now, we can pretty easily draw in some risers. So I'm just going to draw with my rectangle tool along the bottom of the tread and pull it down adjacent to the next tread. And let's say that's going to be 3/4 inches. 3/4 of an inch, I should say. So I'm going to push that into that 3/4 inch guideline. And I will triple click on that riser and make that a component just in case we want to change it. And now I need to reproduce this. So if I go to my move tool, tap Control or Command. Now I'm not in a good spot. I can't really align, so I'm going to hit Escape. What I really want is this spot to move from. So again, I'll tap Control, and now I can align and get that movement done in one motion. So I'll click, and now I can use my multiplier array. So I'll type in times 16 and enter, and the risers get reproduced all the way to the floor. Okay, next up, let's pull out one of these treads. And again, since they're components, they're all going to come out. So I'm going to pull that out 1 inch. And I think I'll put a nice round over on the top and bottom. So since we've got a 1 inch tread here, I'm going to have a guideline a 1/2 inch back. That certainly doesn't look like a 1/2 inch, and you can see it's not on the proper axis. So now I'm along the green axis, so I'll type in 1. Let me erase that other guideline. Oh, actually I wanted a 1/2, so I'm going to undo all the way back and move along the green axis and type in 0.5 and enter. Now I'm going to get my 3-point curve tool, and I will click here once, click here a second time, and then click on the front edge a third time. And now I can use my push-pull and push all the way to the back, and then double click here, and now I've got a nice round over. But you see these edges, which they're there, but you can essentially hide them. So I'm going to click, shift click, and right click on one of the edges and select soften. So now the edges are still there, but they don't show up in your view. So that looks a lot nicer. Okay, G to erase my guides. And I now have a fairly good looking stairs. But one of the things I want to do is actually build a wall that these stairs are going to reside on. So I can start here and pull this out. Let's see, pull it down to where I reference the landing, pull that up. You can kind of see where I'm going with this. So that's our wall. It's a little thick, so I'm going to make that 4 inches. But what I want to do is I want to get this underneath the stairs, and I don't want to have to cut out each of these rises and runs. I'm just going to align that to this front riser here. Okay, so I'm going to triple click on my wall, make that a group, and let me move this out. Let's work out here somewhere and then move it back in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all of these treads and risers. So I'll use my selection technique that I used before. So I got them all, and I'm going to make a copy. So M for move, Control or Command for copy, and there's my copy, and I'm going to make this a group. Okay, and now we're going to use the solid tools to actually cut the profile of the stairs into this wall, and then we'll be able to drag the wall back in place. So first off, let's make sure our solid tools are displayed up here, which they're not. So I'm going to go to my View, Toolbars. If I was on the Mac, I could right-click on these toolbars. Actually, I can here too. That's cool. All right, so I right-clicked on the toolbar, and I'm going to come down to Solid Tools. That's much faster. And I'll just drag those solid tools up onto that toolbar, and they kind of snap in place there. Okay, so let me position this and show you how it's not going to work the way I would like it to unless we do some massaging to it. So let's move this wall over, and then we can kind of use these solid tools to intersect or to cut or to do various operations. But the problem is, let's try to do it here. This is the one I want to use. I want to trim. So it says trim first solid against the second. So if I use the trim tool and I hover over this stairs, it gives me a /0. If I hover over this solid back here, it doesn't. So if I click on this group, if I go up to Entity Info, it says that it's a group, but it doesn't say that it's solid. If I click on this wall, it says Solid Group, 1N Model. So the solid tools work only when you have objects that are solids. The reason this isn't a solid is it's got all these various pieces and lines that divide it up. So if I could somehow make this stair into essentially one part, it would become solid. So let's go ahead and do that. So we've got this outer group. I'm going to explode that. And now we have all of these individual pieces, the treads and risers, selected. So they're all selected at once. I'll right click on any of them and I'll explode those. Now for some reason this bottom face doesn't get selected. So I'm going to triple click again. All right, there we go. So now everything got selected. I triple clicked, and now I'm going to right click and I'm going to make this into a group. Now you can see it's still not a solid group. So what I need to do is double click to edit the group. Now I can edit it, and I'm simply going to erase all of the lines that divide the treads and risers together, which is pretty simple. And just take a few seconds here. And then we're going to use this melded up piece to actually cut the wall profile so that we don't have to do all of these rises and runs on the wall. So we're almost done here. I'm just clicking on each individual line, and you can see that it's turning into a continuous piece of geometry. And a few more to go. Okay, so we now have this, but we also have other lines here and all sorts of extra geometry. So really, all I want to do is double click in this. Oh, I missed one spot. Okay, so I'm going to double click again, and you can see I've kind of got this stair profile selected now. So I'm going to do a Control C or Option C on the Mac to copy it. Then I'm going to close my group. I'm actually going to delete the stairs. And then I'm going to do a paste. So I can do Edit Paste or Control V or whatever it is on the Mac. Command V or Option V. So now I've got my stair profile. And let's go ahead and pull that out. So now it's an identical staircase, but it's all one piece. So now if I triple click on this, make this a group, and we go up to Entity Info, we're seeing solid group. So that's a solid. So this back wall is also reporting that it's a solid, which it should. It's pretty simple. Okay. So now what we want to do is use this solid to cut into that one. So first we're going to overlap them. So I'm going to bring this wall, doesn't really matter exactly where, I'll bring it inside the staircase. And then I'm going to use my Trim Solid tool. So I'll click on Trim. Now if you have something selected, that's essentially your first selection in the trim process. So I'm going to deselect that first. Click on Trim. Select the stairs first, and then the wall, and then press spacebar. We're done. So now I'm going to double click on the wall. I'll do my Hide Rest of Model hotkey, which I've got set to Control H. And now you can see we cut right through that wall. And what I want really is this bottom part. So I'm going to click on the top part, get my Push-Pull tool, push it right back, and it's gone. Right click and close. I can click on this stair profile group and I can get rid of that. And now I should be able to move this back into the room and align it so that we have a nice wall that supports our staircase. Okay, so I'm going to double click. I've got Hide Rest of Model on. I'm just going to do this back side of the wall. So I'll move this over, make a copy of that line, and move that over 4 inches. And then I'm going to pull this back, but I don't know how far, so I'll use my Hide Rest of Model hotkey to show the rest of the model. And then I've got my wall here, so I can click to that. So I encased the stairs. I've got an extra line there that I'm going to erase. Okay. So our stairs look pretty good. Let's go ahead and put a skirt board up the side. So I'll close that group. So let's go ahead and make a board on the ground. Just make it here. I'll pull it out. Let's make that, let's say 3/4 of an inch thick. So it's way too thick right now. I'll push it into the guideline. And it's probably too tall, but let's go ahead and first thing, triple click and make it a group to protect it. So let's get this in the point we're going to start, which is going to be right here. And then I'd like to rotate it up, but I want to rotate it up according to the pitch of the stairs. So I'll get my rotate tool and I'll get it in the axis that I want, which is red. And I'll click here, click a second time, and get it moving in the direction I want, which is upwards. Now I'm going to type in my rise and run. So my rise was 7 and a 16th, so I'll type in 7 space 1/16, comma, and our run was 11. So type in 11. So I typed in 7 space 1/16, comma, 11. And pressed enter, and that did not work. So let's try that again. So we want this to go upward 7 space 1/16. Oh, what I did was comma instead of colon. So I'm essentially doing a roof pitch here. So 7 and a 16th, colon 11, and press enter. And that puts it at exactly the right pitch for my stairs. So while working on this, I'm just going to click on this back wall and press H to hide it. Now I can see I've actually got an extra riser, so I'll delete that. So now this is grouped, so I'm double clicking to open the group, and I will push this skirt board down kind of to the nose and then up a little bit to cover it. All right, and then let's make this a real world dimension. So what are we at here? So let's make this 7 1/4 to be nice to the builders, and drag that out. So now there's a 1/7 piece, and we can pull it straight down so that it goes into the floor, and then we'll come back and trim it. And same thing on the top side, we'll pull that top side, oops, get the right edge, we'll pull that all the way up, and then we'll kind of trim that. So I'm going to press U to unhide, and now I can see where I want my line here. So I'll get my line tool, and I'll do a vertical line from the bottom, and I want to make sure I go all the way. I want to be on this axis, so hold my shift key and then go all the way to the top of the board. That way when I press P for push pull, I should be able to push that back, and that worked. And now on the bottom here, I guess we can kind of use this edge. Well, let's see. Let's come out from the riser, say 1.5 inches, and we'll put a line going up here. Now that's not going to be enough because we're not going to the bottom of the board. So I'm going to make another line here, and then I'm going to press my hide rest of model key, and you can see what we want to cut out is really going back this way. So I can erase this line, and so this is our floor, and I'll hit P for push pull, push that back. Now we can press hide rest of model shortcut again to show it, and you can see that that looks good. Actually, it doesn't look great because it's not covering our stairs here. So I'm going to pull that out a little bit more. So I'm going to add another 1/2 inch to it. Well, that didn't work, so I'm going to add a whole inch. Okay. So now we've got some extra stuff here. We should be able to see that when we hide rest of model. And if I want to draw a line collinear with this line, I just kind of hover over it, wait a second, and then you see it turns purple. So that is parallel. And I can push this up. If I'm really good, I know I've got an extra line here, so I'll actually erase that. Okay, so I'll show rest of model, and there is a finished skirt board on our stairs. Now, one last thing I want to do with this, after I hide the guides, is actually do a little bit of trim work. And we're actually going to come back and do that when we're in the Follow Me video. I'll come back to this model and I'll add a little bit of trim to this skirt board.